You know, today will be our 7th of our 30 practices that we get leading up to our first game, and up to this point, it's been competitive, and that's what we want. We've tried to put a great deal of emphasis on improving our depth. You know, we had numbers last year, but what we really wanted to do more than anything was get as many reps throughout more so the summer leading into this fall for Kyle, Derek Walker, John Fulkerson, and Zach at the time, but he's been down for a couple of weeks now, and so that's allowed DJ Burns to get some of those reps, which he desperately needs too. But and we've tried to play around with different guys at the point just to do that, and so I think we've got some things accomplished in the off season that we wanted to get done, and now we're putting it back together in terms of the different roles and what we need each guy to understand what he needs to do.
Questions for Coach Barnes? Please wait to get the microphone. Steve?
Just wondering, what have you done with the players during the off season to get them ready for the higher expectations there's going to be from the outside, and how prepared do you think they are for dealing with that kind of situation compared to what you had last year?
Well, we really started that process a week and a half after the season ended last year. Once we got through with the season and they had a little bit of time to really on their own, wasn't much. We went in a room and talked about where we were, what we had done last year, and simply said, now that's over with, that's done with. We've got to start over like every team in the country, and we don't get to start back where we finished. You know, we'll start out the season 0-0 like everybody else, and the question will be, can we improve as much each day as we did a year ago? And that's really our whole, the process that we talk about here is just, can we get better today? And so we started that last spring, and a year ago, that was our goal. Can we get better today? And that's what it is today. We haven't, if you walk in our practice facility, there's nothing about winning the SEC, winning the national championship. All that stuff is a given. That's what you're playing for. But our goal is to get, can we get better today? And so we started that last spring. And this summer, we wanted to make it uncomfortable for some guys that we felt like they're able to hide, because we've got a couple of guys on our team that, you know, they want every single rep they can get. They won't come out of practice, and so we put those guys in different spots. So the guys that normally go in and out of practice they had to stay in practice the whole time, and I think that helped them a lot. And it also has helped us that we can put different lineups on the floor. We've played around with a lot of different lineups, and which has been fun. And I think you can do some of that with an older group of guys. I do. I think that's where being older and having some experience, you can do that. And especially if you got some players who have the basketball IQ that they're willing to want to do that, and we've got that. And so once we get into the season. I'll go back to last year. You know, we finished last year at one point in time. I don't know where it started, but I do know that we were the highest-ranked SEC team coming down the stretch, and we finished up 8-2 in conference. And when you have that number in front of you, I don't care if it's a 25 or a 1, it's a big game. And so our guys know it's really hard to win in this league. And in terms of the outside expectations, if they're hearing it, I can tell you that they're hearing a whole different story in practice. And it's the same story that we talked about 4 years ago. It's about us getting better, and that's where we'll keep it.
Grant.
Do you worry about complacency with kids that have experienced success, or is it just an individual thing?
That's my fault. If complacency sets in, that's my fault, and I can assure you that's not going to happen, because it's up to me and our coaching staff, and I think I've got the best coaching staff in the country. We're not going to let that happen, you know. But I also think that we have the kind of character on this team with now our older players. They expect a lot from themselves too. And again, they know it's not going to be easy. I mean, they do, and but they know that every day they come in, that practices are going to be really, really hard. They know that the details are going to be called out, that they don't do it, and you guys have been here with me from the beginning. When you see practice, nothing changes. You know, we're not going to allow the complacency to set in. And the good thing, if it does with any particular player, I think we've got legitimate depth that we can go to, and there's not a better motivator than sitting on that bench.
Austin and Vince.
Coach, you've got an older group now, and you're not shy to hold them accountable. Do you find those older guys now holding the younger guys accountable, and is that a good sign? And do you have any instances this summer where you can look back and go, okay, that's good to see?
Well, yeah, I think you're talking about leadership, and we feel like, you know, we've got Brad Woodson and Lucas Campbell, who have been with us from day one too, really. And we've told those guys they've got as much right to speak up if they see something that's not right as Admiral, as Kyle, as Lamonte, the guys have been here with us from day one. But there's days when we guys will hold each other accountable, and there's days when they're somewhat out of line with it. And the fact that, you know, you can't hold somebody accountable and then you turn around and do the same thing the next day. But that's a little bit of still being young, and even though we've got experience and we've got an older group of guys, we're still dealing with young people who sometimes find it hard to hold themselves to the same level they expect other people to. But overall, I do think that we're a whole lot further than we were 4 years ago. I will say that. And but it's when you really get there is exactly what you're saying. They hold each other accountable. Even the best of the best, when he's not doing well, wants somebody to call him out. But the question is, can they take it? And sometimes that's what you find out. Guys can call guys out, but they can't take it very well. So that's what I would say we've still got to get better at.
Instant West, Mike Brown.
And you have the best coaching staff in the country. How helpful is it that they're all back together and you have that consistency in the coaching staff once again?
It's hard to describe just how helpful it is. It's trust, you know. I mean, there's a trust level that we've had because we've been together, and you know, some of us have known each other now for 25 years, and I know I count on them to hold me accountable. And I think I've got a group of staff, of assistant coaches, and that are willing in their own way if they think I've gone too far one way or the other, and because they know I have a tendency to do that they will say, hey, you got to do this, that, or whatever. And I will tell you, I do listen to them because I've got one thing in mind, and I'm lucky that they've got the same thing in mind, that we all want to be the best that we can be. And it goes back to Grant's question about complacency. Do I subconsciously think that could happen? Yes. And so because of that, I get myself and our staff, we get ourselves ready for practice every day. And we all have different roles that we play in it. But I just know the experience that my guys have is tremendous. And not just what we do on the court, but what those guys do with these guys day to day. They're, just talking to them about getting them ready every day. Because every day we know that they've had academics, they've got things going on in their life, but when they come in the building and we get ready to go to work, we've got to have everybody going in the same direction. And hopefully if there's anything going on beforehand, we know that and we can deal with it, and so it doesn't interfere with what we're trying to get done in practice.
Rick, you've been around the game long enough to kind of coach some teams that were expected to contend for championships going into the season, and some maybe that weren't. And I'm wondering, is there really a difference in the way opponents come after you when the team is supposed to be good, or is that just something that people say?
Well, you know what? I think it's good when people know you're good, because that means you got to be ready to play every night. And if you're not, you're going to get beat. You're going to get beat. But in terms of, you'll never hear me say, this is what people on the outside, they expect us to do this or do that, because believe me, our expectations are much bigger on the inside. And so I'm not ever going to refer to what outside people might say or this or that. But I learned that, and I've told this story before, that when I was at Clemson and Providence, I used to talk about, man, I like to have the kind of situation that Syracuse, Georgetown back in the Big East days, or North Carolina. Wake was great when I was in AC, Duke, those teams. But when I got to Texas and we got those kind of guys, what I found out, if you're not ready every single day, you're going to get beat. You're going to get beat. And because of that, it helps your guys stay sharper because they know it's a big game for everybody. And I think, I don't care where you are, what school you're at, if you've got a number in front of your name, it's a big game. It's a big game. And if that's what we want, it's something that you have to embrace, and something that you should want. I mean, that's what we do this for. You know, with excitement around the program right now, I'm really happy for our guys because I know they've worked hard. But that excitement alone won't get done what we need to get done. It's going to continue to take hard work. It's going to take commitment. It's going to take focus. It's going to take them putting some things beside for a couple months here and stay totally focused on what we need to do every single day, and taking care of their bodies, the way they eat, everything. And we've got a group that I think totally understands that. But I think it's good. I mean, I'd rather. I mean, people. I mean, you know what? To be frank, there's probably some players that don't want the spotlight on them every night. You know, they want to be role players, and there's some players that are like, hey, let me have it. That's the kind of team you want. Hey, here we are. You know, we're ranked. We're good. You know, let's see what we got, and be willing to go play anybody, anytime, any place, anywhere. I like that. And if you lose, you say, hey, good job. You go back to work and see what you can do.
Mike.
Rick, you referenced trying to make some players uncomfortable this summer. Was that aimed specifically maybe more at your guards, and how did those guys respond to that?
You know, kind of back to that last question, like I think Kyle Alexander has really improved since he's been here. But I think he can be so much better. But, you know, when you got two very physical players and Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield, guys that, you know, they're going out there, you know, they're hunting for it every single day. And so it's easy for a guy to say, well, I'll just defer a little bit. We don't want him to defer. We don't want Derek Walker to defer. You know, we don't want a big drop-off. We don't want any drop-off when we have to go, when we go to our bench. I mean, I like to think of every player being able to start for our team if needed. And great case in point, a year ago when Kyle got hurt in the tournament, we didn't get the step up that we needed. That's what we went into the offseason knowing that if some player, if something happens, who's going to be the next guy to really not just fit, but take it to a higher level. And so with that said, in the offseason, we wanted to challenge Kyle. We wanted to challenge Derek. We wanted John Fulkerson to get back to the guy that we knew that we recruited 2 years ago. And I think all those guys are answering that challenge. I really do. There's no question that when we needed Jordan Bowden to be able to play the point if need be, and you know, we wanted to see Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield expand some things that they were doing because we know how they're going to be played at different times this year. We needed Jalen Johnson and Eve Pons to be more than just go in, and we wanted them to become more aggressive. And for that to happen, you know, we went after them every day as if they were starters, and we put them in a position that they had to play every possession almost in practice. So with all that, we had a plan for each one of these guys, that what we wanted to see them do, and really the bottom line is we just want you to get better and embrace the fact that you might have to play a bigger role, and we want you to play a bigger role. And I think these guys do understand that even though we've got guys that have started, I think we've got all 5 starters back along the way. If somebody can beat somebody else out, I do believe they know we will change the lineup. I do believe they know that we're not going. I don't care who it is. You know, we want to foster that competition every day, and that's what we tried to, in a nutshell, try to improve our competition every single day at every position. Not want guys just to come in and say, well, this guy's going to play, and whatever I get, I get. We want them to fight for it, and I give credit to those guys. I think they've really worked hard to do that.
Coach, can you go into some detail on those guys? As you mentioned, you got your top 6 back, but what of Eves, Derek, DJ, all these, you know, individually? What have you seen from them from last year?
Well, it goes back, I think, one, just simply understanding what they're good at and trying to really play to that strength, understanding where they're most effective on the court. One, defensively, they all know that's non-negotiable. They got to guard. They know that, and they know that if they want to stay on the court, they've got to prove they can guard. And if they don't do that, because we were a good defensive team last year, better than we've ever been, but we still missed a lot of our defensive goals that we set for ourselves that we want to get better with this year. But with that said, on the offensive end, we don't want to be in a situation where we're playing 5 against 4 or 5 against 3. We want every guy to improve his offensive ability and where he can be effective. And we do think that we've got guys, post players they're not maybe the tallest, longest guys, but we think they're skilled, think they can pass, think they can initiate some things for us. But and I think like with Eve and Jalen, getting them to understand a lot of their improvements going to have to be how to move without the ball and let the offense take care of what we needed to do for them, but they're going to have to make hard cuts to do that. A guy like Derek, space, fighting for his space, where he can really be effective. And then with him, and with not just him, but all those guys inside, we have spent a great deal of time working on the details of fundamental footwork. Knowing how to seal, knowing how to, passing is still a problem with me. I want to see us become a much better passing team, and that goes not just to the post, but it also goes to our guards. But and it's up to us again as coaches to put them in those positions every day that they can create game reps at game speed, and we're trying to do that for all of them. But it's really about getting them better as individuals, not just physically. They are. I mean, I do know we're a well-conditioned team. I do know that. Garrett Maynard does a great job. Chad does a great job keeping them there. But we want to see him improve fundamentally as a basketball player.
Hey, Rick, what could be the advantage to having some bigger lineups if Jalen or Eves are able to carve out a role?
Well, I do like length. I mean, that's, like I said, you can get longer. I don't know if we can get much longer inside, but we can get longer on the perimeter. Obviously, Admiral's played there, and our wings basically do the same things. They really do, and they're pretty much interchangeable, and same with our post guys. And we've even got a couple guys that, if they get a rebound, can run the point with it. We've tried to do some of that because we do want to see if we can play faster. We want to see if we can be more effective, more efficient, and don't want to go long droughts without scoring, obviously, but we want to play at a pace. Jordan Bone has had a great off season. I think Lamonte had some surgery done in the off season on his shoulder, but he's getting his way back and been pretty through the whole summer with it. And then at the end of the summer he got that taken care of. But the competition is what we're looking for every day in practice, and we're pretty much getting that.
Coach, you're touching on this here, but what are your expectations for Lamonte Turner this season?
Lamonte's a player. We've got a core group of guys that just love the game, and they're in there working every day. And we're going to still need. I think one of our point guards are going to have to be a terrific defensive player. Last year we really worked hard at trying to disrupt point guard play on the other team, and between he and Jordan Bone, and again I mentioned Jordan Bowden, those guys are the guys that we want to see do some of that. We're trying to use Eve Pons in a defensive role too, where we think he's the one guy on our team that should be able to guard any player on the court from 1 through 5. We think he can do that, so we're trying to get him to understand that role, which Eve is literally one of those guys who's going to do absolutely whatever you tell him to do, and he's learning a game. He still is, but there's nobody that cares more than he does. And so, but with Lamonte, and we know Lamonte's not afraid of the moment. He's a guy that will look to take the shots if it needs to be taken, and you obviously need some guys like that. But the biggest thing, we want he and Jordan Bone to really know our offense inside out, our defense inside out, and be able to really direct and keep our flow going throughout the game.
Coach, you talked about getting as many players point guard reps as possible. Do you think we'll see more of like a positionless approach where different guys initiate the offense, or will the offense mostly run through Bone and Turner, as you said, starting the plays?
Well, and the point point guard is going to, after we get going down the floor, he's going to, that initial thrust, we expect him to see what we're looking for and hope we can get into it. If not, then once we get into our offense, and we run an offense pretty much that where everybody's got opportunities to score, but then we're going to run some things to get the ball at certain players at certain times, certain spots on the floor. We're going to do that, but we honestly, we have something for every one of those guys at every position. We've got a way we can call something out of our offense if we see something that we want to see to take advantage of. But again, this summer, and the staff, we talked about this a lot, in the fact that we want guys, sometimes we'll put a guy at a point just to let him understand how hard that position is. The other day, we got a little drill we run, and I had Jordan Bone do what the center does, or what the other post does, and he found that's pretty hard to do too. So it's all hard to do. None of it's easy, but at that point position, you got a lot. You got to have vision. You got to see as opposed to looking. You got to see what's going on, and that's where I like to think that Jordan and Lamonte's gotten better at the point. I think having a chance to play the point is good for everybody, and we've had different guys there that let them. Some of them think they can do it, and they find out it's a little bit harder than they think. And again, I think all that stuff's good to keep your team from getting bored. I think they get excited when they know that you're not putting them in a box and not trying to say, hey, this is all you can do, because our job as coaches is to work as hard as we can to help them be what they can be, and you find out sometimes guys can do more than you might think they can do if you give them the chance.
Grant and Mike.
Do you like Lamonte better off the ball?
I think there'll be games this year where he and Jordan will be in the game at the same time. I like Jordan Bone off the ball some. I think they're probably our two best shooters, and I like those guys spotted up and having a chance to attack closeouts. And so yeah, I like both of them. Because again, playing the point is really hard in practice for our guys because of how much pressure we put on point guards. And yeah, I think that like I said, we want Jordan Bone when when the ball's not in his hand to get ready to score because he can shoot it, and Lamonte the same way. Those guys they can make shots, and they're quick and can attack closeouts, and then it's up to them to make the right decision in terms of where they pass the ball. They don't get the shot they want.
Rick, how did Admiral's approach to work change after the NBA draft process? I know you said he was a guy that would just get volume, but did he kind of whittle that down and hone his approach after that? I think
it's hard for him to whittle it down. He's just in his DNA. He just works. And again, we've talked to him a lot about it. But did he slow down a little bit? He did, because but he goes at it. He's going to be over there. That's really where he lives, in Pratt Pavilion. That's where he stays, and we keep talking to him about it. But he is mature to the point to where he knows he's got to take care of his body. I think, and what we want to see him as a coach and staff is now embrace the mental side of it in a way that I can't imagine anybody working any harder than Admiral Schofield. I really can't. But we spoke the other day. We had a talk 2 days ago, early in the morning when he was in there. Garrett was working on his body for him, and I talked to him about the mental side of it, where he's old enough now that he's got to really understand how the mental is more important than maybe the physical. And but he is a guy that he loves the game. He loves it, and he loves putting time in, and it's almost like honestly, his passion is to really be admired.
Steve.
With Grant coming off that Conference Player of the Year award, what have you wanted him to focus on the most during the offseason in terms of getting better, and what's the difference you've seen in him this now versus maybe this time a year ago?
Well, what I wanted him to focus on was getting better in every area. I still think I will always talk about conditioning with all of our guys. I think that part is important. I think you can always take that to another level. You got to be smart how you do it, but I think that's really will continue to be a big part for him, to where he can play longer, harder, smarter. I watch it every day. When guys get fatigued, they break down. They start doing things. They forget the details. And so you've got make bad decisions with the ball, just trying to get the play over with. And Grant has a tendency to do that when he's tired. And so the fact is, we wanted him to, and he's going to have to learn to defend better, smarter, because people are going to definitely, he's got a target on his back, you know, that people are going to make him guard. I mean, they're going to go in the game, put him in positions, they're going to go at him that way. So he's going to have to be able to defend ball screens without fouling. He's going to have to do his work early in the post without fouling. I'd like to see him rebound more. I think Grant Williams should be a double-digit rebounder, and he hasn't done that in the 2 years he's been here. That's something that he should really want to add this year, where he's a much more consistent rebounder. And but again, Grant's one of those guys that he works at it too. I mean, we've got some guys that really love at it. They come in every day. They do want to get better, and I don't. Goes back to the question about complacency in terms of their individual commitment to our team. I haven't seen any complacency there. If anything, I think I've seen guys want to. They embrace the fact that they want to get better. They're open. Certainly to start with, when we tell them what they need to do to get better, and they want to be coached, which is all good. But any guy on our team, not just Grant, I would say that I don't care what it is you're doing, you've got to get better there. And I would tell him, and I have told him, that you're just getting started in this game. You're going to have to continue to get better for the next 10 years if you want basketball to be a part of your future. And I would say that to every one of these guys.
Final question, Wes.
Okay, is there, you know, any concern that a year after having some success that guys, it'll be harder to get some guys to embrace their roles if that role's not scoring the ball, you know, because these guys are all, I guess, 1 year closer to maybe playing here or playing overseas and what their futures. And is there any concern about that?
I'm not concerned about any of that stuff, because you know what, to me, it's no different than when I got here 4 years ago. We're starting over. And so I expect guys to embrace their roles, and if they don't, they won't play. It's that simple. I mean, and I don't care who it is. And the good thing is, they know that. They know it. And so, I mean, I'm so happy with what we did a year ago. We came out of nowhere. Nobody thought we would be very good, this, that, and everybody, the same people that thought that think we're going to be pretty good. But I promise you, we have not changed our approach. I mean, we're going into this like, hey, like I started with, it's a new ball game for everybody. We're going to again play one of the toughest schedules in the country. We didn't have to do that. You know, we didn't have to do the series with Memphis or go to Gonzaga. You know, we didn't have to do any of that. But we're doing it because we still want to build this program to where it's consistently one of the best basketball programs in the country. Have we got it going in that direction? Yes. To keep it there, it's all about getting better every single day and not letting what happened a year ago, what happened yesterday in practice, day before in practice, whatever. Today's a new day. And I expect our guys to want to embrace it, and they have. And because, to be truthful, we are very transparent with our players. There's no secrets. There's no, I'm not going to say something to someone in private and in our team something else. Our assistant coaches aren't going to do that. It's very transparent. There's absolutely no question what we expect every single day from each one of our guys. And we're not going to deviate from that.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you, guys.
Players will be